My wife laughed and said, "Every man notices me. I could replace you in a week." I nodded. Then I casually listed 4 names under my breath. The table went silent when she realized they weren't random, and everyone present suddenly understood why. I'm 35, and I've been married for 7 years. We have a decent life, nice house, stable jobs, the kind of routine that most people would call comfortable. But somewhere along the way, my wife started believing her own hype. Social media didn't help. Every photo she posted got hundreds of likes, comments from guys she barely knew, telling her how beautiful she looked, how lucky I was. She ate it up. It started small. Little comments here and there about how men still looked at her, how she still had it. I'd brush it off, laugh along, because what else do you do? But over the past year, it escalated. She'd mentioned specific guys who'd flirted with her at the gym, at the grocery store, at work. Always with this tone like she was doing me a favor by staying. Last Friday night, we had dinner with 2 other couples, our closest friends. We'd known them since college, the kind of friends who've seen you at your worst and stuck around anyway. We were at this Italian place we always go to, halfway through our 2nd bottle of wine, when the conversation turned to relationships. One of the wives was talking about how her husband still made her feel special after 10 years together. Sweet story, everyone nodded along. Then my wife decided to chime in. "I mean, it's nice and all," she said, swirling her wine glass. "But let's be real. The spark fades. You stop trying as hard. That's just marriage." I didn't say anything. I was cutting into my chicken, letting her talk. "Like I love him," she continued, gesturing vaguely in my direction without looking at me. "But if we're being honest, every man I meet still notices me. I go to the gym, I get hit on, I go to the store, guys offer to help me reach things I can perfectly reach myself." Our friends exchanged glances. The kind of uncomfortable looks people make when someone's saying too much. She didn't notice. Or maybe she did and didn't care. What I'm saying is, if I wanted to, I could replace him in a week, maybe less. The table went quiet. She was smiling, like this was a joke we were all in on, but nobody was laughing. I put down my fork and knife carefully, took a sip of water. Then I looked at her and said, "You're probably right." She seemed surprised I agreed. "See? He gets it." "Sure," I said calmly. "You could probably replace me quickly. You've been working on it for a while." Her smile faltered. "What?" I leaned back in my chair and said, almost casually, 4 names. Just 4 first names, spoken quietly enough that only our table could hear. The color drained from her face. Our friends looked confused at first, then I watched realization dawn on a couple of their faces. One of the wives covered her mouth. One of the husbands sat back, eyes wide. "What are you talking about?" my wife asked, her voice suddenly sharp. "Those are the names," I said evenly, "of the men you've been messaging, the ones you've been meeting for coffee, the ones you think I don't know about." The silence at that table was deafening. Around us, the restaurant continued its normal Friday night buzz, but at our table, time had stopped. Update 1. She tried to recover. "You're being ridiculous. Those are just friends." "The first one," I interrupted, still calm. "You've been messaging for 6 months. Met him 4 times that I know of. Coffee twice, lunch twice. You told me you were meeting your sister one of those times. I can have male friends. The second one works at your gym. You've been texting him at night after I go to bed. I've seen the notifications." Her hands were shaking now. Our friends were frozen, not knowing whether to leave or stay. "The third one is your coworker, the one you said was just helping you with a project. You've stayed late at the office 6 times in the past month. I called your office on one of those nights. They said you'd left 2 hours earlier." "This is insane," she said, but her voice had no conviction. "The fourth one," I said, and paused. This was the one that hurt most. "Is my brother." One of our friends actually gasped. My wife's face went from white to red. "Nothing happened with any of them," she said quickly. "We just talked. That's it." "Maybe," I said. "Maybe nothing physical happened. But you know what did happen? You spent 7 months building escape routes, testing the waters, seeing who'd be interested when you decided you were done with me. And you were stupid enough to do it all on devices and accounts I could access. You went through my phone?" She was trying to turn this around, make me the bad guy. "I pay for the phone plan," I said. "I can see every number you text. I can see the times, the frequency. And when your behavior changed, when you started staying up late, when you started going to the gym twice a day, when you started dressing nicer for work." Yeah, I checked. Our friends were all staring at her now. The judgment was palpable. "So when you say you could replace me in a week," I continued, "you're not wrong. You've been auditioning replacements for months. The only difference is, now everyone at this table knows it." She stood up abruptly, her chair scraping against the floor. "I'm not doing this here." "Where do you want to do it?" I asked. "At home? In front of a lawyer? You pick." She grabbed her purse and walked out. Just left me sitting there with our friends and an untouched plate of pasta. One of the husbands spoke first. "Dude, I'm so sorry." "Did you know?" I asked. "Any of you?" They all shook their heads. One of the wives started crying. "I can't believe she'd do that, especially with your brother." "Yeah, that one surprised me too," I said. And I meant it. Finding out about the others had hurt. Finding out about my brother had broken something fundamental. I stayed at the restaurant. Finished my meal, actually. Our friends stayed with me, nobody quite knowing what to say. When we finally left, they offered to let me stay at their place. I declined. This was my house, too. If anyone was leaving, it wasn't going to be me. Update 2. She was home when I got there, sitting in the dark living room with a glass of wine. "We need to talk," she said when I walked in. "Now you want to talk," I replied, not turning on the lights. I sat in the chair across from her. "You humiliated me in front of our friends." "I stated facts," I corrected. "You humiliated yourself by doing what you did." "Nothing happened," she insisted again. "I swear to you, nothing physical happened with any of them." "Why should I believe you?" I asked. "You've been lying to me for months. Why would you suddenly start telling the truth now?" She was quiet for a moment. "Because it's the truth. I don't know. I was flattered by the attention. I liked feeling wanted, but I never cheated." "You had emotional affairs with 4 different men," I said. "One of them is my brother. Do you understand how twisted that is?" "Your brother came on to me," she said defensively. "I didn't pursue him." "But you didn't shut it down either, did you? You kept talking to him, kept responding to his messages, let him think he had a chance." She didn't answer. "When did it start with him?" I asked. 3 months ago, at your parents' anniversary party." I remembered that party. I'd been helping my dad with something in the garage, left her alone for maybe 20 minutes. That's all it took. "What did he say to you?" "Does it matter?" "Yeah, it does. Because I'm going to have to confront him eventually, and I want to know what I'm walking into." She sighed. "He said you were an idiot for not appreciating me more. He said if he had someone like me, he'd never take me for granted. He asked for my number." "And you gave it to him?" "Yes. And then you texted him for 3 months. It wasn't constant, just occasionally, when I was feeling ignored." "I ignored you?" I asked, genuinely surprised. "I come home every night. I do half the housework. I plan date nights. What exactly was I not doing?" "You stopped seeing me," she said quietly. "You'd look at me, but you wouldn't see me. I felt invisible. So instead of talking to me about it, you started collecting backup options." "I didn't think of it like that." "How did you think of it?" She didn't have an answer. We slept in separate rooms that night. I lay awake most of the night, my mind racing. In the morning, I had a decision to make. Try to work through this or end it. Update 3. I called my brother first thing Saturday morning. He answered on the third ring, his voice cheerful until he heard my tone. "We need to talk," I said. "About what?" "About you texting my wife for 3 months." Silence. Long, damning silence. "Don't lie to me." I cut him off. "She already told me everything. I want to hear your side." He stammered for a minute, then said, "Look, it wasn't serious. We just talked. She seemed unhappy, and I was trying to be supportive." "Supportive," I repeated flatly. "You told her I was an idiot. You asked for her number. That's not supportive. That's predatory." "I never touched her." "You betrayed me," I said, my voice rising despite my efforts to stay calm. "You're my brother. You were supposed to have my back, and instead you tried to move in on my wife the second I left the room." "She responded to me," he said, defensive now. "If she was happy with you, she wouldn't have." "So it's my fault?" "I'm just saying, maybe you should look at why she felt like she could talk to me." I hung up on him. If I stayed on the phone any longer, I'd say something I couldn't take back. Next, I texted the other 3 men. Short, simple messages. "Stay away from my wife. If you contact her again, I'll make sure your significant others know about your conversations." 2 of them apologized immediately, lengthy messages about misunderstanding boundaries and respecting my marriage. The gym guy tried to play dumb, claimed they were just workout buddies. I sent him a screenshot of one of their more flirtatious text exchanges. He stopped responding after that. My wife came downstairs around 10. I was sitting at the kitchen table with coffee and a notepad where I'd been listing out everything we owned, trying to figure out how you divide a life built over 7 years. "What are you doing?" she asked, her voice small. "Preparing," I said without looking up. "For what?" "For whatever comes next." She sat down across from me. "I want to fix this." I finally looked at her. "Why?" The question seemed to surprise her. "Because I love you. Because we've been together for 7 years. Because marriages are worth fighting for." "Do you love me?" I asked. "Or do you love the stability I provide? The house, the life, the safety net while you shop around for something better?" "That's not fair." "None of this is fair," I said. "But answer the question honestly. If you met me today, knowing what you know now about yourself and what you want, would you choose me?" She thought about it for too long. That was answer enough. Update 4. We tried counseling. That was my condition for not filing for divorce immediately. She had to go to therapy, both individual and couples. She agreed, probably because she didn't have much choice if she wanted any chance at salvaging things. The therapist was good. Patient, didn't take sides, asked hard questions of both of us. In our 3rd session, she asked my wife directly, "Why do you think you sought validation from other men?" My wife talked about feeling overlooked, about aging, about social media making her anxious about her appearance, about wanting to feel desired. All valid feelings, the therapist said. But the way she handled those feelings, by betraying trust and building escape routes, that wasn't healthy or productive. Then she asked me, "Why did you stay silent when you first suspected something was wrong?" I didn't have a good answer ready. Pride, maybe. Fear of being right. Hope that I was wrong. I'd noticed changes in her behavior months before I confirmed anything. I could have confronted her then, forced the conversation earlier. Instead, I gathered evidence and waited, building my case like I was preparing for trial. "You were both protecting yourselves instead of protecting the marriage," the therapist observed. Maybe she was right. But knowing that didn't fix what was broken. Understanding why something shattered doesn't glue the pieces back together. We went to counseling for 6 weeks. 6 sessions of unpacking years of unspoken resentments, unmet expectations, and fundamental communication failures. She admitted that she'd been seeking validation because she felt taken for granted. I admitted that I'd stopped making her feel special because I'd gotten comfortable, complacent. But here's the thing about affairs, emotional or otherwise. They're not really about the person being cheated on. They're about the person doing the cheating and what they're running from. She wasn't just running from me. She was running from herself, from aging, from the reality that social media validation isn't real intimacy. After one particularly difficult session, we were sitting in the parking lot of the therapist's office. Neither of us wanted to go home yet. "I don't know if I can do this," she said quietly. "The therapy?" I asked. "Any of it. Being married to someone who knows what I did, who looks at me and sees a cheater." "You're the one who wanted to fix it," I reminded her. "I know, but every time you look at me, I can see it in your eyes. You don't trust me. You probably never will again, and I don't know if I can live with someone who's constantly waiting for me to mess up again." "So, what are you saying? Maybe we got married too young. Maybe we've grown into different people. Maybe this is just over." I sat with that for a moment. "You want out?" "I think we both do," she said. "We're just too scared to admit it." She wasn't wrong. The marriage had been dying for longer than either of us wanted to acknowledge. The affairs were just the symptom, not the disease. Final update. The divorce was finalized 4 months ago. The process was surprisingly smooth once we both admitted it was over. She got some furniture, half our savings, her car. I kept the house, my car, my dignity. Fair trade, honestly. She moved out within 2 weeks of us deciding to separate. Stayed with a friend initially, then got her own apartment across town. We divided everything methodically, almost businesslike. There was no screaming, no fighting over possessions. We'd already done all our fighting in that restaurant and in the weeks that followed. My brother and I don't speak anymore. My parents tried to mediate, hosting a family dinner where they hoped we'd work it out. I showed up, he showed up, we sat at opposite ends of the table and barely made eye contact. Some betrayals don't have expiration dates. Maybe someday we'll work through it, but I'm not holding my breath. He sent me a long email a month after the divorce was final, apologizing and explaining that he was going through his own relationship issues and made bad choices. I read it once, then archived it without responding. Maybe someday I'll find it in me to forgive him. Maybe not. Either way, the relationship we had is gone. I'm doing better than I expected. Therapy helped. I kept going, even after the divorce was finalized. Worked through a lot of things about myself, about what I overlooked, about why I stayed quiet so long. I'm not blaming myself for her choices, but I'm owning my own patterns and mistakes. The house feels different now. Quieter, emptier, but also more honest somehow. I rearranged furniture, painted a couple rooms, made it feel like mine instead of ours. Small acts of reclaiming space. I've been on a few dates, nothing serious. Turns out starting over at 35 after a divorce is weird. Everyone has baggage, everyone's cautious, everyone's been burned before. But it's also freeing in a way. No illusions, no assumptions, just people trying to figure out if they fit together, one coffee date at a time. The friends who were at that dinner are still my friends. Closer now, actually. They've been protective of me, checking in regularly, including me in their plans. I'm the single friend now, which is a weird adjustment. But it beats sitting home alone dwelling on what went wrong. I heard through mutual friends that my ex-wife is seeing someone, the gym guy, as I suspected. They moved in together recently. I hope it works out for them. I genuinely do. Not because I'm particularly magnanimous, but because I want her choices to have meant something. I want her to have found whatever she was looking for when she blew up our marriage. Sometimes I think about that moment at the restaurant, how she said she could replace me in a week, and I just calmly listed those 4 names. The look on her face, the silence at the table. It wasn't my finest moment. Public humiliation rarely is, but it was honest. And maybe that's what our marriage lacked most. Honest moments where we said the hard truths instead of letting them fester. She taught me something valuable, though she probably didn't mean to. People will always show you who they are if you're paying attention. I spent months ignoring signs, explaining away behavior, giving her the benefit of the doubt. I won't make that mistake again. Trust but verify isn't cynicism. It's self-preservation. Would I do anything differently? Maybe confront her earlier when I first suspected. Maybe push for harder conversations when things started feeling off. But maybe not. Maybe this was the only way it could have ended, and trying to rewrite history is just a way of avoiding the present. Life goes on. That's the thing nobody tells you about divorce. It feels apocalyptic when you're in it, like your entire world is ending. But then one day you wake up and realize you're okay. Different, sure. Changed, definitely. Scarred, absolutely. But okay. And okay is enough to build on. I'm not bitter anymore. I was for a while. Bitter and angry and hurt. But those feelings fade when you stop feeding them. Now I just feel free. Free from pretending. Free from a relationship that had been dying for longer than either of us wanted to admit. Free to figure out who I am outside of being someone's husband. The house is quiet tonight. I'm sitting on my back porch with a beer, watching the sun set, and for the first time in months, I feel something close to peace. Not happiness, not yet, but peace. And that's a start.